after we decide that, then I try and figure out who is it that we need to go after that would be able to provide that for me. Is it long-term customers? Like, can we afford to lose a little bit of cash on the front end right now so that I can go after people who will stay with us for 8 months, 12 months, 18 months? Or is it like, no, we really need cash. Like, the business really needs just a little bit. How should I know if I should use guilt or supportive language? I have created basically a couple different frameworks that you can use very, very quickly to identify this with AI, because not all of us have that weird background where like, now I just look for it everywhere. So if I come in with a message of just like, your skin is like just wrinkly all over the place and you need to fix this, she's going to be like, yeah, I do, but no, thank you. Sometimes if I come in with a message of like, get glowing skin, she might be like, too hypey. So it's this weird sweet spot in the middle where it's just very calm, very... You know, your skin is fine. Aging is normal and you know this. But if there's pieces that you do want to fix, we have something for you. Those type of anchors are really interesting because we can actually kind of functionally work with that as brands just by how we present ourselves. So I've seen some brands be able to raise their prices, AOV skyrockets, the whole thing just explodes just by changing how their website looks. They were like, we just look mid-tier, so let's go up in value just by changing what we're presenting. There is a big difference between social proof and bandwagon effect. They're like two totally different psychological mechanisms. Social proof just tells me a lot of other people trusted this, so I could probably trust this too and go buy it. Bandwagon effect, though, that one has to do with the fact that we tend to support opinions as they become more popular. Not necessarily that a lot of people said they liked this, so I should like it too. It's more the fact that, like, I'm noticing this is becoming more popular. This happens on Twitter all the time. Creative diversity is a great example of this. That was bandwagon effect. People were like, we're talking about it. We're doing it. I'm going to get on board with this because it seems important, right? Now, did we stop to think whether or not we were communicating the same thing? Because to me, creative diversity is psychological. To everybody else, creative diversity is format.
And now, let's take a listen to the Scalability School podcast.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Scalability School podcast featuring a special guest host, Will Sartoris. Will, so glad to have you. Will from Selfmade. You probably know him on Twitter. He's gone viral recently. He has an AI newsletter that's absolutely exploding. I can find it in the show notes. Will, glad to have you with me. Thank you.
Yeah, it's an honor. I'm very stoked to be here.
Previous guests as well from our illustrious list of past guests. And today we have creative genius / awesome person in the world / just a person I've known for a long time who's incredible, Sarah Levenger. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Small clap.
That
small
was
clap.
such a nice intro. You're so kind. You and I go way back.
Hey, I mean, I should look at like the first email we sent each other. It's got to be like a long time ago.
Yes.
This time is weird. I was just talking about how time's not real with somebody this morning. So
yes. Oh my gosh.
yeah.
You knew me before I knew anybody. I was just wandering around being like, what do you do? And what do you do? And do you want to hang out? Like, I'm trying to learn stuff. And you were one of the very first that was like,
I appreciate
come
that.
over, hang out. No, thank you.
Come over and hang out. I mean, here's the thing. Like, you know, I've been doing a lot of self-reflection and self-work the last couple of years. So you knew me before I knew me, really.
Which, I mean, that's how every human on the planet works. Sometimes I'm looking back at content that I posted and I'm like, what was I talking about?
Oh, yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah.
We
yeah.
love
I also just look at stuff and I'm like, I was a tool, really. Like, actually, relatively sometimes.
I never got that, but you were very kind.
I appreciate that. Well, hey, welcome to the show. Today we're talking about creative strategy, the role of a creative strategist, which we're going to start with. And then we're going to shift into basically, you know, all of us, we have to make better creative. And so we're going to talk about 15 specific behavioral science heuristics and applying them to ad creative for performance marketing. That's what we're going to get into. So
my favorite. First
question, creative strategy has shifted. 7 and 8 figure brand owners have creative strategists or a series of creative strategists. This role today, people that are doing this role, what are they doing that's making them more successful than other people?
Okay. Loaded question there. Define successful, meaning like success in the ad account or success?
I'm talking about, let's just talk about success. I appreciate that. I'm talking about success in the ad account, that it's moving performance forward.
Okay, yeah.
And I would say success that they're not like completely hating their lives and they have, you know, that they're like, because it's so hard to do like, that this job is difficult.
Yes. It's a difficult job. Mostly because I think the primary output from this job is ideation, it's ideas, right? Like it's just ideas that map to a specific goal. And this I find really interesting because it's one of the only, I should say, one of the only roles that over indexes for one type of optimization. When you're a CEO, a CMO, a CFO, you have a primary directive, but you get the entire year to kind of figure out your way to get there, right? If you're a creative strategist, you have today. I need wins today. I need you to get me money today in the ad account. No matter what happens, your only goal today is to find us revenue and cash. So it's a really difficult, high stress, very high fluctuating kind of a role that optimizes primarily for just revenue generation. So that's first part. Second part of it, though, the ones that are doing it incredibly well have a system that they've created for themselves that makes ideation just a natural part of whatever they're doing in their day. And specifically, I would say high levels of creative ideation. So they're not regurgitating the same things they always do. They're just really creative and they can do it over and over and over and over. So it takes a very specific type of person to do it well. Wow. If you can find one, they are incredibly valuable for the brand.
And how are they integrating it in the daily, like
Mhm.
in the daily that they're doing? Like, I mean, is it? I mean,
Yeah.
they're scrolling and they have their feed that's built properly, and they have a way to curate this content and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Like, and then they're messing around with AI to a degree. Like, what are they doing?
They're doing it all, which is crazy. I have noticed the people that have the best systems, since the direction really is go find revenue, go make cash. Secondary, you got to have a system to be able to do this, and you have to be able to create ideas at scale. The best thing that I've seen these people do is they have a system for regenerating what they believe about people. And that I find really, really fascinating because the ones that do it the best, like the Dardennes of the world, the Barry Hotts of the world, like even down to the people that we don't even know what their names are, but they're just really good and they're currently just crushing it for their brands. These are the people that I've found understand not just like what their customers need. They don't do like deep, deep levels of research all the time, but they've been able to synthesize it so that they can just continuously repeat this over and over and over. So, for instance, great example of this. I met a creative strategist the other day that has all of her Notion docs and she has a calendar set up. And on her actual calendar, Mondays are literally only for understanding what the customer experience is. So she will go and she will actually try the products on every single Monday and
Mm.
continue like experience the product, which I thought was like brilliant because I don't see a whole lot of creative strategists using the products that they're trying to sell. So that was lovely. But then Tuesday was her actual ideation day based upon her experience and digging back into the customer data, understanding what they have said in the past. Now she can combine the two and she comes up with much better ideas because she's got her own personal experience to add to theirs. And then Wednesday she'll go into production. Like she has this system every single week.
I love this. Will, feel free to jump in anywhere that you'd like. Brad and I just usually, and Zach, we all interrupt each other. So I'm just going
Okay,
to ask another
perfect.
question, which is, so that's super helpful. It's integrated. They're making it
Yeah.
a part of who they are.
Every week. Yep.
Where so much of what I feel like is, in that demand of it has to be profitable now, is
Uh-huh.
unlocking new personas.
Mm. Mhm,
Right?
mhm.
Like
Yep.
it's trying to,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, we've spoken about or benefits to the product, which we
Yes.
can get in. This is a good transition into this other stuff we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like, how are those that are doing this well? Is it that they're just reading a lot more Reddit research? Is it that they're
Mm,
like, what are they doing to unlock this? Or those that you've seen that have
yeah.
unlocked, let's say, new benefits or new angles, new personas. What are they doing
Yeah.
that others are not?
I think they're doing what this girl is doing that I met last week.
Mhm,
They're immersing themselves, not just in the
mhm.
data. And I think this is kind of key. They're not just immersing themselves in like what did our customers say on a post-purchase survey last Tuesday. That's kind of important, but it's just one snapshot, right? It's one day where we saw somebody do something interesting. Most creative strategists that I know are like heavily consuming content around the entire industry itself. So I see a lot of creative strategists that are just prolific on TikTok, scrolling, because they're looking for interesting ideas, not just like interesting ways to sell stuff. They're looking for trends, really like definitive things that they can see that's coming out of the organic creators. So that's one piece of it. Is they're just really good about identifying good stories that are coming out of content. And then second, I think that they have a very, very, very deep knowledge about business growth, which is something that didn't pop up initially. Like when we first saw creative strategists come in, what, like 2021, 2022, their job was like, you just need to go make good ads. So we need you to be creative. We need you to know how to make content, and we need you to know how to somewhat video edit and script write and some other things. Then it kind of expanded into like, well, now we kind of need you to understand the media buying tactics behind this, the growth tactics behind this, so that you know what type of ad to make. And
Yeah.
now it's expanded even further into like, well, now we really need you to understand where our business sits, right? What kind of metrics we're facing, what our cogs look like, what the metrics look like on like the ad account and for the overall business. Yeah, it's getting intense and very complex. But the best creative strategists I've ever seen have this kind of like global view where they can look at all of it and they're able to kind of synthesize it easily.
It does feel like there's like sort of like two core verticals here, right?
Mhm.
Like with the strategist that you were discussing, having her try the product every day, so she's experiencing things and she's probably like sort of coming up with angles. This could be a potentially great demographic for this product. So you're sort of wetting your own experience with the personas and angles, right? And then sort of secondarily, you have the copy that goes along with the ad, and then I guess like from a tertiary standpoint, then you have to pick the ad creative. So like,
Yes.
how does
Yeah.
one, wed the persona and angle to copy and then to the ad creative? Because there is a myriad
Yeah.
of different ad creatives. Like, how would one even know
Yeah.
which persona and angle would work with, this type of static or this type of
Yeah.
video?
I mean, I have my own system for it. Do you guys want to hear my system? I can share that with you. I think every creative strategist has their own way of doing this. Some people like to go basically format backwards. So we choose what kind of format are we using? Static, GIF, carousel, like what are we doing? UGC. And then we'll go from like this formulaic kind of format over to persona. Who are we trying to go after, right? What do they want most? How do we need to tell the story? Then from there, we'll go backwards from there and just decide what landing page are we going to, where are we going to send them so that we know what kind of messages to put in there. That's the typical way that I see it, is just very marketing focused, very foundational to the structure of like the tactics we're using. I like to go backwards because I get very confused and lost in the sauce if I don't understand all of the picture of like what we're trying to do. So I first kind of sit down and talk about what does the brand want to do right now. I always tell everybody, you got to start with like, what are we optimizing for this month? Because it's not always growth. Sometimes it is. And I know that the brands want to talk about it like it's continual growth forever, but you can ask anybody, Coca-Cola, all the way down to startups, you're not going to grow every month. It's not, you're not even going to grow every year. Like it fluctuates constantly. So we start with what are we trying to optimize for? Is it growth or typically efficiency is what I see second. So cost. Are we trying to get cost down or are we trying to get more people in the business? What are we trying to do? After we decide that, then I try and figure out who is it that we need to go after that would be able to provide that for me? Is it long-term customers? Like, can we afford to lose a little bit of cash on the front end right now so that I can go after people who will stay with us for 8 months, 12 months, 18 months? Or is it like, no, we really need cash? Like, the business really needs just a little bit of cash flow right now. So we need to go after people that are going to buy today. Who are we
Mm.
going after, right? From a mental standpoint is very, very important. So figure out the optimization of the business, figure out who we're going after. And then I put a lot of time into understanding the personas, like the ICP. Like we're trying to figure out exactly who we're trying to get in the business. Because half the time from what I've noticed is brands will get to this 7, 8 figure mark and all of a sudden they will forget that you've eaten through early adopters already within the last 2 years. Now, you probably haven't eaten through all of them because unless you're really reaching like millions of people every single day, you haven't touched everybody yet. But you've eaten through enough of them that now the people that are in your ecosystem are actually people who are pretty well versed in this industry. They know a lot about your products. They know a lot about the brands and what's available. They need a different message than early adopters did. So you got to change your strategy. So I like to look at it a little backwards, go from business to person, not like person to business.
That's fascinating. So are you effectively subscribing for each persona? Like, maybe a number, let's just say 1 through 10, 10 being like this would be a long-term, purchaser, 1 being like a one-time purchaser.
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
Fascinating.
I need
Okay.
ranking systems. My brain is really weird, and I'm like, you got to give me a number. Put a number
Yeah.
on it. Like Sarah's not super good at math, but I understand statistics well enough to know some of these people in here are going to get us this quick injection of cash, and some of these people in here are not going to buy for another 8 months, but they'll stay with us for 30 years if we treat them correctly.
I mean, that's like such an overlooked such an overlooked piece of
Yeah,
it.
I agree.
I mean, honestly.
Critical.
So,
It's critical.
let's talk about, the behavioral science side of this and getting into this specifically. A lot of people talk about psychology in marketing in a surface level way. And the first question, what do most people get wrong when they apply it to ads?
Oh, I need to have to pare this down. What I see typically from the industry now, especially since we've had AI kind of pop up, which is a whole conversation in itself, I see a lot of people talking about apply psychology to your ads. You need to be emotional with your ads. But I don't see a lot of people talk about how. How. So psychology is fascinating because some of us have a background in this. Some of us at college. Some of us are just like Sarah, who's just a fanatic and consume a lot of content around it. But the interesting part is the application step gets missed. So I understand that I need to be more emotional. And I understand that the emotion I'm trying to pull out is maybe guilt or fear or anxiety. But I only have one way of pulling that out. Typically with marketers, it's I need to force somebody to feel guilty right now in order for them to make a move or to purchase something or to push them towards the sale. That's not how humans work. Typically speaking, when you're trying to elicit a response from somebody, you want to find out what's motivating to them, not just assume that because they feel guilty, guilt is what's going to make them move. That's not how that works. So I tend to see an application issue. So great example of this too. If you're going to be going after this kind of guilt-focused customer, depending on the product, the psychology will change as well. Category psychology matters a lot here. So for a mom who maybe feels guilty because she's really letting her face go and it's just like, I really should get some cream or something. I don't even know. Like, I just need something for this, but I don't have enough time because I'm a mom. Guilt is a part of her experience. But the second part of it is she doesn't want to be forced into something because she's being forced to do 80 million other things every single day. So a better tactic would be to choose a different emotion that will cause her to feel like you don't have to do everything. You just need one thing. Let's start with night serums. Just one thing, right? We'll present it to you and help you buy this without having to make a full commitment to a 30-day process and 50 different things and all kinds of stuff. So you got to be careful with application because not every emotion is motivating.
I do feel like all the best strategists are talking about emotions to subscribe to specific personas and angles, but like, how would one even go about knowing, like, if I have persona one is a busy mom of 4, like, and we're maybe talking about a skincare product, like, where would I even know or how would I even know to start, and in taking in an emotional approach?
Like, how would you know to use guilt or not to use guilt?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I've been trying to figure this out for years. I don't know.
It's just innate. Maybe. I don't know.
I think I for some reason my brain just works this way, and I think a lot of it just is childhood trauma. Like, all of us have traumas that came from childhood and teen years where it's like you got trained to look at something very closely. My brain got trained to look at what people were saying, dissect what their face was actually doing, and then understand the subtext between the two. Like, I understand you're communicating this even though you're saying this. So I trained myself to do this for a very, very long time. Now, that's just a part of my history, but I can see it in other ways too. So if you're wondering, like, how should I know if I should use guilt or supportive language?
All right, friends. This episode is brought to you by Northbeam, the marketing attribution solution we love over here at the pod. And, Zach, good news. Northbeam is launching Northbeam incrementality. Have you guys used this?
We have. We've gotten a little bit of access to it. And so far, so good. Max is stoked. Who's my CMO? He's digging it. And yeah, I mean, out of the gate, we're super happy.
Yeah, I mean, Northbeam incrementality gives you easy, automated, self-service incrementality tests right there in the platform. And it gives you sort of like actionable data and allows you to operationalize a lot of these. I think that's a big difference between Northbeam's incrementality tool and what we have other places in the market. It can, run basically, it runs end to end with lift testing with your MTA and your MMM. So you can scale what works and cut what doesn't, which, I know for you guys at your companies is huge, right?
Yeah. I mean, the fact that we use Northbeam as our North Star for all of the dollars that we spend to have this functionality built in right into the MTA is just like not only a time saver, but it just makes the workflow much easier. So big fans.
Yeah. And it's something that you trust, which I think is huge. So they're giving right now really good deals, pretty cool 50% off offer to listeners of the Scalability School podcast. You just go to northbeam.com/incrementality and you get to be the first on the list. So tell them what we sent you, 50% off all tests for a year for those who join now. So check it out. Lots of awesome features that you have, and we'll look forward to hearing how it goes for you.
How should I know if I should use guilt or supportive language? I have created basically a couple different frameworks that you can use very, very quickly to identify this with AI, because not all of us have that weird background where like now I just look for it everywhere. So I look for basically 3 different things, sometimes 4, but the 4th one is emotion is what I'm looking for. 3 different things, especially in the ad creative that I currently produce. So before I do anything for any brand, I usually come in and do an audit for them. I'm not looking for hooks, angles, avatars. Like I don't care what you guys have been doing earlier. I'm looking for how you communicated the message. So for instance, we look for one thing called valence. So valence has to do with, I can't take credit for this. It's a psychology model. It's the valence and arousal model. I typically change it to valence and intensity because it makes more sense in my brain. Valence has to do with positive or negative. How do we communicate this message? Did you say everything's going to be fine? You don't really need to worry about it because we're going to take care of you. Everything is going to be totally okay. Positive communication. Or did you say it negatively, which is like, you have to do something about this. We're at a critical point. If you don't fix this, something bad is going to happen. Negative, right? So I track valence, then I'll track intensity on it. So positive or negative communication goes in all sorts of different directions, but how intense that language is changes how the message is received. So I bring this example up a lot, but I could say to my husband, did you take out the trash? Like, I'm so sorry. I completely forgot to do it. It would be super helpful if you could do that today. Or I could say, why did you not take out the trash? Like, I have told you 5 freaking times to do this. Like, I am so tired of you just not doing what I've asked you to do, right? The level of intensity is very different. And how I worded it also changed depending on what I wanted him to experience. The first one says, I'm so sorry. I completely forgot. Can you please help me? The second one says, you're an idiot, right? So, and we don't notice that we do this in marketing. So I sat with somebody I think it was like last Tuesday sometime, went through their entire ad account. And I was like, did you realize that you're communicating the message that these women are incompetent because they're not dyeing their hair the way that you think they should? And he was in shampoos and he was like, how? I'm not seeing that. Like, how am I saying that? And I was like, well, you're asking them if they're exhausted and if they've thought about dyeing their hair in a different way. Of course they have. These women are not dumb. You're communicating that you think they are, and that they can't figure it out themselves. Instead of saying, you already know this. You're smart, capable woman. You're just tired. Let me help you figure out a different way to solve your grays without having to do it the way that you know works, because it's just not healthy for you anymore.
Yeah. That's a
Different
great
thing.
point. And like fundamentally comes down to like respecting the consumer. It's like,
Yes,
and then
respecting the consumer. Thank you. Oh my God. That's my whole
yeah.
goal in life. Empathy is important, but ethics, guys, ethics. And I say guys as in like the entire industry. Everybody I talk to really wants to make money. I get it, especially now because we got tariffs and all this other stuff that we're doing. But you got to do this ethically because these customers are already so drained from all of the marketing stuff we put in place to try and force an emotion on them. It's critical to slow down.
We audit a lot of accounts as part of the
Mm.
Foxwell Founders community, right? Every member gets an audit every month. And a
Mm.
lot of times, if they say we have another account, like whatever, we'll audit like 3 accounts of theirs in a month. It's fine.
Yeah.
And what's interesting to me is there's a lot of chasing of trends in terms of
Mhm.
ad creative, of like, oh, this was like work, this is what that is, and we got to get on
Yeah.
that. There's just not enough time spent in the intention of the message. I agree with
No.
you about like,
Yeah.
speaking to people with respect. There's a
Mhm.
lot of, I think, threat side
Yeah.
of it, like, and
Mm.
within what you were talking about, like, there's a lot of that that's in the negative, because I think that to many founders of companies feels like it's more urgent.
Yeah. Yep.
And um, so as you dive into this even more, let's talk about some of these, heuristics.
Mm.
So, like, one is loss aversion. Losses, can we just go down the list? Is that cool with you
Yep.
guys? So, like, number one,
Yeah, that
loss
works.
aversion. Losses feel roughly twice as painful as equivalent gains feel good. How do you think about framing ad copy around what people stand to lose versus what they'll gain? I think that's a
Oh,
good
talk
question
about that.
talking about this.
Loss is interesting because I think marketers just assume that loss means pain, but loss can come in all sorts of different flavors and shapes and forms. So some of the best ads that I've ever produced talk about loss of self, not necessarily loss of time or loss of like progress, loss of success. I think it's also interesting because a little bit of this comes down to conversation of what loss means to me is what I typically communicate in my own marketing. So I do a lot of work these days on team psychology to understand what does the team believe about this loss? Because typically the customers aren't as sensitive to loss as we think they are, unless it's a specific type of loss. So when it comes to like, how do you decide how to frame these inside your ad account? I'm typically looking at more what does our customer respond to when I say loss? Because and I'm trying to think of like a good example of this. Loss comes down to value, right? Like what you actually crave in life. So, for instance, for Sarah, some of the things that I don't want to lose is time with my kids. That's like critically important. So, it might mean that I move slower. So, it might mean I might actually be more sensitive to gain message if it's for something that will get me back time. Does that make sense? So, like, I'm actually operating from loss, but I'll be more likely to buy things that will gain time because that's what I'm
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean,
so
you
yeah.
look at it like I would think it would resonate with like a certain segment of demographic. It would resonate like one side of like
Yeah.
losses, but then the other side of it, it's going to resonate that potentially, someone like you that's has kids. Not trying to stereotype here, but I mean, we have to get into this talking about creative strategy, like college educated. You know what I'm saying? Like you're like,
Mhm.
I want to reframe this for myself.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so instead of like, this is going to
Yeah.
be bad, you know, uh, like stop damaging your skin barrier
Yeah.
every morning versus like
Yeah.
get glowing skin.
Yes. Yes.
I mean,
Well,
the
and it's
time
oh,
is
yeah.
a huge thing that I don't think is pitched enough for the record.
Yes,
Like I think
time.
everybody wants more time.
Oh, everybody wants more time.
Right.
I also think everybody wants more, like you said, beginning respect. I see respect messages working incredibly well right now because people are just like, "Can you stop?" Like, I don't want to be sold to. First of all, I can tell you're selling to me. Second of all, and third, it seems lazy. It comes across as disrespectful. Like you're not actually trying to get me as a customer. You just want my money. Is what
Mm,
customers are like feeling a lot of the time. So if I come in with a message of just like your skin is like just wrinkly all over the place and you need to fix this, she's going to be like, "Yeah, I do, but no, thank you." Sometimes if I come in with a message of like get glowing skin, she might be like too hypey. So it's this weird sweet spot in the middle where it's just very calm, very your skin is fine. Aging is normal and you know this. But if there's pieces that you do want to fix, we have something for you. It's a really odd message that seems to be working right now. And it all comes down to which type of loss is she trying to avoid?
mm,
Because right now it's almost loss of autonomy that these customers
mm.
do not want. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. I mean, and you look at like any great work of art, right? Movie, film, book, and they all respect the consumer, the reader, the viewer, right? And so I guess I would love to just drill down on that a little bit more. Like, what maybe could you provide some like examples of like what that exactly looks like? You just provided
Mm,
one, with like it's okay to age, but like
yep.
how do you sort of we only have so many seconds in a movie medium. You have
Yeah.
these days 3 hours,
Mhm.
right? So like,
Yep.
how do you think about respecting the consumer?
Uh, in my point of view, honestly, I tend to go see what the organic creators are doing because they typically have a different optimization that they're going towards, and so they can capture what the customers want from stories way faster than we can. Because we're optimizing for sales, a lot of times we want to go after urgency, scarcity, right? Social proof, like go, 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 go. We get really into the lower valence emotions a lot faster. With the organic creators, though, they have to keep attention and attention, especially on the organic platforms, comes down to how well can I identify what people are struggling with the most internally. So a lot of the content creators that I follow in all sorts of different odd ranges of the internet, but it's predominantly because I'm trying to figure out what do like pottery people suffer from right now. What is it that they're currently craving? Let's go look at some organic pieces of content so I can try and see what are they talking about a lot that's coming up constantly when I start to revamp my feed just for pottery, right? And you'll notice it very, very quickly because TikTok's algorithm is so well suited to getting you stuff that's like what's the word? Conversation, right? Lots of different people are talking about this right now, regardless of how many people like the video or follow this person. This topic is a trending topic. So that's one of the
Just really
easiest ways,
quickly.
to go in there
Yeah.
and get it because TikTok, so good.
I mean, that's a huge one. So looking at organically, that's something that like other members have suggested. Will has suggested
Yeah.
that, I've talked about this, like looking at that and then looking at obviously combining it with what people are talking about on Reddit.
Yeah.
It's a similar thing. It's a little bit deeper, but
Mhm.
it's not as fast. It's like, to me, if I always think it's amazing, like if somebody's willing to create a piece of content about an actual topic, like
Yeah.
that's a huge signal, even if it's like two
Mhm.
people,
Yep.
because it's not easy
Absolutely.
to create this stuff necessarily,
Yeah.
So it's like if you're
Time and
like, "Yeah,
effort.
I'm gonna create this, it's like a good one. Okay, so we had loss aversions. We're talking about that. So we talked about anchoring.
I
Let's
love
go to
anchoring. Oh my
anchoring.
gosh.
So
Anchoring.
how do you use anchoring in pricing creative landing pages or even the first frame of the video ad?
Anchoring is interesting because I think people assume that it's only things that you show them right before you show them the most important piece of information. So typically, anchoring has to do with the fact that whatever piece of information you show first, that's what people are going to make their judgment off of for the next whatever amount of time you're with them. So you'll see oftentimes car dealerships will do this a lot when you go shopping for vehicles. They'll ask you what your price range is, what kind of car you want, those type of things. They'll show you some that are either outside of your price range, depending on their judgment, like of your type of buyer, or inside your price range, or lower than your price range, depending on whether they think they can actually get you to buy up. So they're using anchoring, right? Online, this typically comes in the form of we show you the price on the ad, and then we'll show you the price on the landing page, PDP, wherever we're going. And that typically comes with a discount. Now, we're hoping that just because we showed you the price on the ad, that the price on the PDP will be satisfactory and you will go ahead and purchase. It does work that way, 100%. The problem with this is when it comes to anchoring, we also have to realize that people have category anchors that are tied to entire industries. So the only industry that I haven't seen this very much in is wine, because wine is like subjective. It's like I can have a $20 bottle of wine, I can have a $200,000 bottle of wine. We don't
It's
know
like
why.
a Giffen good, right?
Yes,
Like the higher price they
yes.
are, the more appealing they are.
It's just like, okay, well, and there's some deep psychology in wine. It's such an interesting industry. But for everybody else, typically speaking, I might buy a t-shirt. It's probably going to be somewhere between $20 and $120. If it's outside of that like range, 20 to 120, now we're getting into brand work. Like, why should I part with $121 just to get this shirt? It better be something that I'm pretty aligned with. Lululemon, right? We're talking like something that's really, really good. Now, those type of anchors are really interesting because we can actually kind of functionally work with that as a brand just by how we present ourselves. So I've seen some brands be able to raise their prices, AOV skyrockets, the whole thing just explodes just by changing how their website looks. They were like, we just look mid-tier, so let's go up in value just by changing what we're presenting.
There's never been a time. So because of the function of people having a short amount of time, there hasn't ever been an opportunity for luxury or little luxury to present itself
Yeah.
more positively.
Yes.
And these little things like that of like going up in price, but if it solves this sort of luxurious issue, or if it feels like a little luxury, it's going to be more important, and I think it'll definitely help.
Yep.
Um,
Absolutely.
this could lead us into number 3, framing effects.
Oh, I love framing. This is probably my all-time favorite one because this is kind of what I do predominantly on the daily basis. So when I do consulting projects with all these brands, we're looking at framing, right? So valence, intensity, trying to understand which self we're going after, which emotion we're going after. All of this I'm just trying to understand how do we need to frame this particular piece of communication. So it goes back to that take out the trash kind of example. Framing, how you say something matters almost more than what you're saying, because you could say basically whatever you want, especially in this particular country, but how you say it is going to change how many people follow you, who decides to buy from you, how much they decide to buy from you, where they go to buy it, and then if they ever come back to buy again. This is why I don't love the kind of hacky, urgency, scarcity-based stuff, because it's been so overused that I think people are just kind of done being receptive to that framing. It's also, in my book, not very creative. Like, there's so many more creative ways to get somebody to buy from you. Humor is a great example. Like, Liquid Death grew like $1 billion brand over the course of just a couple years just by being funny. Like, they sell water. Like, it's, I mean, the most bonkers brand. Now, there was a lot of market things that happened there to make it awesome too. But humor worked incredibly well for them, and they were consistent. They kept that framing the same so that people knew what to expect when they came in contact with them. So yeah, framing effect is everything.
The one that Will brought up to me before the podcast, which, Will's my guru, so I thought it was really smart. It's like protein bar positioned as meal replacement, clean snack versus a fitness recovery tool.
Yes.
It's like, and I think that's so much of, also when you look at a certain ad account, there's like, you won't see that happening as much. It typically, the variations, this is just in the last couple of months, this is a gross generalization, but the variations seem to be based on creative type versus a frame.
Yep.
Right. So they're like, this is a founder talking at, which is good. I mean, I'm not saying that's wrong, but it also, I think, has to hold those things. It's like the same message and the founder's saying it, the static is saying it, and the high produced video is saying it. And it's like, those can also, there can be variety in that as well.
I think this also is affecting creative similarity, because we're hearing about that a lot nowadays, which is kind of funny because, man, we were really addicted to creative diversity there for half a second. Diversity in my book was never about the format. I don't care what format you put this message in, right?
Yeah.
Format is important, but it's like step 5 for me. Like, it's way down the line.
Meta has said creative diversity is important. Under, GEM and, they've come out and talked about GEM and Andromeda and talking about how much organic plays a role in this as well. I think that is big. I hear you. But also, like, that has to be part of it to a degree. So I think putting these things through that kind of machine is important.
Yes. Diversity, though. Oh, sorry. You want to move on? I was going to say, clarify
please go.
diversity. The diversity conversation for me is psychological diversity. Format is step 5 in that process, like I said. Psychological diversity, though, comes down to, again, what situation am I trying to bring up? Our concepts for creatives are so bland, unfortunately. Like, we regurgitate a lot of the same messages over and over and over. So just call out 100%. Diversity is incredibly important. Psychological diversity, though, not format diversity. That's secondary.
Well, because, so let me just jump into a random thought that's been rolling around in my head, which is like, I think it's really important to go through all of this because everyone is being forced to create better ads. But like, we have a member who I've talked about before. He'll come on the podcast at some point, who's a friend of mine, Harry DeMelch. Okay. Harry started his own creative strategy firm. Harry stayed at my house in the room that I'm in last year.
He's lovely.
Like, what makes him more successful? Because they're creating absolutely like killer ads and they're working. And what makes him more successful than other people? And I really think a lot of it comes down to this type of stuff we're talking about is going through and understanding the psychology of like making not just different pitches, but how are people thinking about this and why? So number 4, social proof, bandwagon effect. People follow what others are doing. It's easy to say 12,000 people did this or whatever. Like 12,000 people brought this today example versus a single detailed testimonial versus a wall of UGC.
Yeah.
Which one? I mean, you want to test that variety, obviously, but what's your take on this?
There is a big difference between social proof and bandwagon effect. They are like 2 totally different psychological mechanisms. Social proof just tells me a lot of other people trusted this, so I could probably trust this too and go buy it. Bandwagon effect, though, that one has to do with the fact that we tend to support opinions as they become more popular. Not necessarily that a lot of people said they liked this, so I should like it too. It's more the fact that, like, I'm noticing this is becoming more popular. This happens on Twitter all the time. Creative diversity is a great example of this. That was bandwagon effect. People were like, we're talking about it. We're doing it. I'm going to get on board with this because it seems important, right? Now, did we stop to think whether or not we were communicating the same thing? Because to me, creative diversity is psychological. To everybody else, creative diversity is format. So we have this issue now that we're all arguing about something that technically we have different definitions for. So this is the reason why when it comes to pushing social proof inside your ads, you have to be careful which one you're choosing. And I would tend to lean towards bandwagon effect over social proof because, again, social proof has been overused, especially by Amazon, to the point where we don't really trust it or check it. Like, people will read the reviews. It's still like a part of their purchasing process, but it's not as intense anymore. You used to be able to get somebody to buy from testimonial ad. Like, if you showed a testimonial with 5 stars, that ad would just print. Now it's just a part of the stack. So overuse of these tools tends to degrade them. But I'd rather go after bandwagon because that means I can hop on cultural trends pretty easily and quickly.
Yeah. Create FOMO
Yes.
in a way. Yeah. So type 1, type 2 thinking, system 1, system 2, right? System 1, automatic car, right? You're just like sort of on autopilot. You think you're scrolling through Reels or TikTok. It's just like, is your brain even on?
Yes.
So I guess the question is like, how do you sort of think of we talked about respecting the consumer. So one might assume that the consumer is doing type 2 thinking, but like, how do you sort of think about consumers and ads in type 1, which is like sort of fast, quick thought versus, or not even thinking at all, just like sort of going on gut impulse versus type 2, where you're actually turning the gears on, doing fundamental thinking, and like going through, thought architecture.
I don't even know if I have an answer for this because I don't think that there's nowhere on the planet where the variables are going to be consistent enough for somebody to go through the same type of thinking every single time.
Yeah.
So when they're looking at products, I might be in my car one day and I might see your ad, but I also might be like at daycare the next day, or I might be at the grocery store. I might be in my office. I might be scrolling while I'm watching TV. That's the toughest part about this industry is like, we don't control the majority of what happens to these ads after they go out. We spend hours, thousands of hours every single month trying to make sure the messages are just right. Or for some people, just drafting as many different variations of this as possible. The problem is once it goes out, we don't have control over how the human experiences it. So because of this, like system 1 versus system 2, I default to system 1 style ads more than system 2. So I would rather get an ad that you can process without having to think about it than an ad where it's like, I have to think, what is she trying to say? What is this ad trying to say? Unless, caveat to that, the only time I want system 2 thinking ads to go in place is if they're brand ads. Like, and I'm talking like, man, your man could smell like, right? Most interesting man in the world. Ads that are like, I have to pay attention to this because this is so weird. The guy's on a horse and like has diamonds around him and like now he's in a bathroom. What is going on? That type of ad, 100%. I'll spend hours drafting brand level, very iconic ads, but only at the top of the level of the brand. For paid advertising, I'd rather go for system 1, just let it get processed through as fast as possible.
And there's probably like different layers of system 1 too, where like, it's very clickbaity, you know, just like crap drop shipping. But that's fascinating. Going back to respecting the consumer, you would think that like respecting the consumer would try to trigger type 2 thinking, but like probably not if someone's attention span is already so narrow.
Yeah, especially because they're going to watch, Taylor Swift's documentary this weekend. Like they're on the other thing. Like they don't care that your brand is having a 25th anniversary sale. Like that's not like critical for them. Save for maybe the, at this level, probably like 10,000 customers who just love you. Like they can't get enough of what you've got. Those people maybe might be receptive to system 2 thinking, but for the most part, the rest of the market doesn't care about us nearly as much as we think they do.
Yeah.
And so it's way better to go faster.
You raise a good point. It's almost like with paid, just like default to system 1, maybe like in your like Facebook group that you have with all of your consumers, like that's where you want to provoke deep thought.
Yes, 100%. And that's where you ask questions. You want to get deeper into their mind. You also want to understand, what's your life like? Because I can't tell you how many times I've asked that question in focus groups and post-purchase surveys and quizzes all over the place. What is your life like is one of the most respectful questions you can ask as a marketer, because nobody knows that Sarah's got 2 kids and I work only 40 hours a week because the rest of my hours are dedicated towards like managing children, right? Nobody understands that, like, Sarah doesn't really have any hobbies outside of, like, my plants, maybe? Like, I have a very specific life outside of my D2C ecosystem that I don't really show people, but it's still a part of what I bring to work. And that's also happening with customers. Their life outside of the screen is what they're bringing to the screen. That's why the algorithm will change what your For You page looks like on the daily, depending on how you feel. So, our job as marketers is to get really, really knowledgeable on what their life looks like so that I can plug into what they do focus on, not become something they focus on.
Yeah, I mean, also the framing of that question is pretty genius because it seems like you give a shit, right? Like, I actually
Yes.
care about you, you know? Like,
That's so sad, but yes, like, I
yeah,
care. What's your
yeah,
life like? What do you do? What do you not
yeah,
do? What do you hate? It's super important outside of just the
yeah.
products. Like, that's important
Gets
information too. But yeah,
Totally. It
who
gets the
are you
I
as a
framing. Like, what did
person?
you think about my product? Like, yeah,
Yeah. Oh
it's pretty
gosh.
genius,
Yes.
actually. Yeah, it's smart.
Oh, it's so intense out there. Yep. Very important.
So we're not going to. I'm looking at how big our list is, and we're not going to be able to get through all of these. And I'm thinking about we have endowment effect, status quo, the decoy effect. And
Mhm.
I will we'll put these in the show notes as well so that everybody can see these and see that kind of the way that we were going through this. But I would say if you're sitting here as a 7 and 8 figure brand owner and you are trying to y- get your creative strategist or yourself are trying to create better ads and let's just say better marketing. Let's talk about landing pages. Let's talk about looking at the funnel. Let's talk about the emails that you're sending out. How do you begin the system of assessment that somebody would hypothetically be paying
Mm.
you for? I
That's a good
mean,
question.
like, how do I even begin this I mean, so some of this might be cool, but it's like, I'd be curious, but what you'd say, where can
Yeah.
somebody go?
Typically, I always tell people if you're just starting this out, you have a creative strategist, like you have a team, you guys are stable. We're just trying to figure out like how can we do this better because we know we can always optimize. The very first place I start is with us, right? It always starts with you as like a person. We can study our customers left and right, but if we have an internal hidden bias that we just have dug in there somewhere that we don't even know we have, it's going to affect literally everything we do with the people that we interact with. So these days, I'm actually doing it backwards. This is something that I just started doing this year, actually, offering internal team audits of the team psychology first to see what do you believe about us? What do you think we sell? Right? What do you know we sell? And what do you think we do poorly, like as a brand? What do we default to when it comes to creative? How do you think about like our creative processes, what our workflows look like, what our briefs look like? And then secondary to that, I always go into what do you know about our customer that you just don't think is true, that we think is true. And it'll be very obvious when you start asking these questions because depending on the role, you'll get a totally different answer. And that right there is so telling of what we've done to the internal teams of the business when we've tried to force optimization towards scaling. We don't allow for people to have these very nuanced views because we're just constantly hammering down on like whatever gets somebody to buy. So, very first thing, audit that internal team. And then secondary, audit what your customers think of the brand. So often you can do this with your email list really quickly. Just shoot out an email that's like, hey, we just want to see what you guys think about us. Like we're trying to, do better in the world, do better for you guys. Tell us what you think. Please be honest, as honest as you possibly can. And ask the same questions. What do you think we sell? But who do you think we are as a brand? What do you wish we wouldn't do? Did you see anything that you love that we did that we could do more of? You'll get lots of really interesting answers, but it always comes down to again, what do we believe? What do they believe? And what's the delta between the two? Once we identify that, then it's a whole lot easier to win.
So that's super helpful. And right now, we're in this age where everyone is building tools
Yeah.
to assess
Yes.
their creative and
Mhm.
performance. And I think that removes the human side of
Yes.
it a lot.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Will, what are some applications that you've seen in terms of building better creative and helping scale a brand with AI tools? This could be any of them. Like, what are people doing? Will in a previous episode talked through his process
Mm.
at that time of creating better
Oh,
creatives. But I'd be curious of kind of what you're using, and Will, it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts too.
I need to go back and listen to that because, oh, now I want to see what Will's doing because you're always at the forefront of stuff, Will. So, I mean, for myself, I'm using AI to help us ideate a little bit better based upon all these things that we know about the team. So once I get all this information about the team itself and then about the customers and finding out the gap between the two, then all I want to do is grab a tool that's going to help us come up with the most creative ideas I possibly can get and layer in that missing piece is what we're trying to do. So I have like a teeny tiny tool that I developed at TetherOS. This one in particular is basically a content scraper. So it'll go out, take a look at all the conversations around a particular topic or a keyword, and then it will go ahead and ideate new concepts based upon how the phrase is being communicated. So we're taking a look at like intensity, valence, self, like all kinds of different emotional motivators, identifying those like super, super carefully, and then creating good ideas from that. But I'd be interested to hear what Will's doing. Now I need to go listen to that. That episode.
Yeah, and things have obviously evolved at a light speed pace since that last episode. But I think you raised something really interesting in that like sort of format comes last. And I would say 90% of folks I speak to they pick their format first.
Mhm.
And so just something I just like vibe coded this past week was just like, because I agree. I think like the meat and the potatoes and where the human element really comes in is just like, who are we targeting? What are we saying to them? How are we speaking to them? And then like, okay, like what format should we use? Like what like sort of fits best into our sort of creative stack. And
Mhm.
so, to that end, just like, and I shared this with Andrew, and we can share this, show notes or whatever. It's just like this vibe coded tool that pulls in the meta ad library. It's just for statics, and it tells you like all the different formats everyone is utilizing, and you're allowed to compare your brand to that. So you can say like, oh, I should be doing more like us versus them, or more headline, or more, whatever. And so like, if you already have your meat and potatoes, and you just like need that last 5%, like, okay, I guess we need to do like, an us versus them ad. Like that's just like a great way to leverage AI and just like juxtapose yourself versus the market. But like to your point, Sarah, like so many people discount like that
Yeah.
and really important work that goes
Yes.
in,
Yes.
and like all these AI workflows that just like, here's 1,000 UGCs that you can post on your TikTok. Like that's
Yep.
useless. And I think it's just like that's where the bandwagon effect goes really haywire and is quite bad.
I would agree. I like this tool though too, because half of this comes down to how did you communicate this consistently? And you'll notice I go into some ad accounts and I'm like, I can tell the team just loves video. Not that video is working for our audience, but our team is very good at communicating these messages with video. So I
Hmm.
find that like super fascinating because that's a good internal kind of a thing too. So you can audit what the team is just really good at. Some brands are really good at statics. Some brands are really good at video. Some brands are really good at like carousels, whatever it is. You'll see it pretty quickly if you audit though. I love it. So interesting.
Well, I feel like we jam packed it in. I feel like we talked about a lot of interesting stuff. I mean, I was taking quite a few notes actually myself,
Okay.
because I like to have the information before other people,
Yes, yes,
which
yes.
makes me feel elite, and
Oh
it
my
makes
God,
me
I
feel
love
like I
it.
have a leg up.
Like
So even
polished.
on the podcast that I host, Sarah Levenger, super grateful for your time. Thank you for joining us. Will, thank you for stepping in at the last minute. Very appreciative of you. And we'll put all this information in the show notes if you have questions. We'll also put all the connections to Sarah and Will in the show notes. Make sure to talk to them, hire them, work with them. Absolutely genius, brilliant people. So thanks for being here today. This episode is brought to you by Brad's company, Work Marketing. If you need a D2C marketing agency, let me tell you, Homestead is great, but Work Marketing is also fantastic. And let me tell you, you aren't going to find friendlier people out there in the e-commerce space. So we decided to do these little ads for each other's companies. So hopefully you find it interesting. But seriously, great team at Work Marketing. Very smart. Brad and Jordan are incredibly dialed in. I just gave them a lead, already made this brand that I gave them like, I don't even know, double the revenue that they had the previous month or something. So, it's very exciting to be connected with Brad. And if you need a great agency, there's really no one better. Zach, anything to comment on work marketing?
Yeah, I mean, if you want an agency that cares about your business much more than they care about their own website, I just tried to load workmarketing.com and it was broken. So they're definitely going to give more of a shit about your business than their own. So I highly recommend Brad and the team over at Work. They've been incredible. We've referred a lot of business over to them as well. Really, really good as far as like cracking funnels and figuring out like rapid growth for brands. So highly recommend these guys.
The only way that we grow this podcast is by you sharing it with your friends. Honestly, like reviews kind of don't really mean anything too much anymore. They're really meaningful, but they don't do a lot for the growth of the podcast. And so sharing YouTube links, sharing Spotify links, sharing Apple, whatever we call it under the podcast app now, anything you can share, the better we're going to be. Guys, anything else you want to say on this?
Yeah, please go check us out on YouTube. Rack up those views for us. We'd love to see it. And then subscribe. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube as well.
And I relentlessly refresh the YouTube comments because it dictates my mental health for the day. So please say something nice about all of us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for listening, honestly.